Thank you so much for joining us at noon on a Friday. We recognize that you could be in a million different places right now virtually, so we definitely appreciate you being here today with us. Before we jump into the program real quick, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. As I mentioned previously, the program itself is 1 hour. So you'll have the panelists, the awards, which I'm excited about in the first hour. And then we're going to have, you don't have to stay, but we would love you to stay if you have the time. We're going to have 30 minutes of networking where we send you to 3 different chat rooms. So you get to meet and greet the panelists, the speakers, the sponsors, the awardees. If you can only join one 10-minute session, that's fine. And if there's someone specific that you want to talk to during that session, we'll do our best, but send a private chat to Amanda Lovins, and we will do our best to connect you with that person in the networking breakouts. We will also keep folks who are not speaking on mute, but if you do have a question, please throw it in the chat, a comment, a recommendation, put it in the chat. Myself and staff are monitoring the chat throughout this program today. And don't forget, if you haven't had your lunch yet, we do have specials from Celtic House, William Jeffries, and Rebellion on the Pike. I'm not eating yet, but I'm craving carne asada. Stephen's got a tater tot right there. So I'll probably be heading to Cafe Cezanne later today. But please feel free. We will not be offended if you get out your Uber app and order food right now to be delivered during the program. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John Murphy.
All right, thanks, Kim. And the lunches from our Pike partners, you are allowed to order adult beverages as well. I just want to remind you that. And as Kim said, we like to have a robust chat going on, especially with questions. So turn your chats on and use them, and we'll monitor those and ask the questions that need to be asked. I wrote a little thing. So good afternoon, all you Boomer Zoomers. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for CPRO's annual Pike Projects Progress Luncheon. For those who don't already know me, I'm very excited to be the 2020 president of CPRO. I live in Penrose and my company, Washington Workplace, is here also. For the Pike, this is always one of the highlights of our year and recaps the work we have done, who has helped us do it, and look into the future, what remains to be done. Before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to all of our sponsors or supporters of this event, especially our gold, silver, and bronze sponsors, without whom this would not have even been possible. So that is all I have is by way of introduction. And let's start the program.
Excellent. Thank you, John. As John mentioned, we would not be here today without our sponsors, and you guys have been exceptionally generous, especially in these challenging times with COVID. So again, thank you so, so much. For those of you who are new to us today, who don't know much about Columbia Pike, we are 3.5 miles in Arlington, Virginia. We are the oldest and newest Main Street. We are one of the most diverse places in the region. We like to call ourselves a world in a zip code. We also are a blend of mixed housing, as well as significantly diverse ethnically restaurants and businesses in this 3.5 mile stretch. Pretty much you come here and you can eat around the world. And like I always like to say, Amazon is coming. We are excited about Amazon. We're excited about all the development in the area, but Columbia Pike still continues to be one of the most affordable places. Actually, I should say it differently, housing that is still affordable. And that's what we definitely pride ourselves on. Moving right along, back in 1986, CPRO became a 501c3. And for those of you doing the math, that means next year will be our 35th birthday party, our 35th anniversary. And we truly hope that maybe by the end of that year, we will be able to celebrate our birthday in person. So stay tuned, please. Although we recently refreshed our strategic plan, it made us realize that we continue to foster a vibrant, safe, connected, and diverse Columbia Pike community. And we appreciate you being part of that. You know, sometimes it's hard to believe, but there was a world before COVID. And there will be a world during COVID and a world after COVID. Almost a year ago, I was just looking at my Facebook feed and my Instagram feed. Centro opened, and we are now incredibly proud to report, and David Orr may speak to this later, that Centro is now fully leased. So big kudos to Centro. Then was followed by Gilliam Place, which also APA and others partnered in, and we'll hear more about La Casina later today. And then we saw the Trove. So it has been a busy year for development on the Pike. And the projects continue with the lineup: Westmont, Pike West, Arlington View Terrace, Axamite Village, 2400, 2300 9th Street South, and the Elliott. So more to come. There is a lot of progress happening on the Pike right now. Now let's talk about transit for a moment, because this is how we connect. This is how we build bridges, literally and figuratively. And literally and figuratively, there have been some bumps in the road. However, with COVID, there has been some silver linings. In partnership with the county and the contractors and construction, we have been able to expedite a lot of the building on the west end of the Pike and expedite phase 1. We are definitely excited about the vision of the 16M bus route and the vision for the premium transit network on the Pike. And as we saw COVID come and bring challenges to the Pike, we have been partnering and pivoting through this time. Although it was a little tough to swallow, we had to postpone our 25th annual Blues Festival, but we were able to take it online on the radio and get a lot of participation, as well as our own beer label through New District Brewery, which we're forever grateful for. We also had our first drive-in movie theater on the Pike, which really brought a lot of attention and excitement. And then with the help of our residents, we recognized major needs, supporting our nurses, our restaurants, our farmers, through our Buy a Nurse Lunch program and our Feed Our Families program. Both of those programs will need funding to continue into the new year, and we're looking to really pivot those programs to continue to meet the needs of those on the Pike and in the region. We also saw a need to connect, to not just do our annual meetings and some of our public forums, but to really bring leaders and advocates and community members to the table through our connecting and collaborating sessions, which we started up in April, and we will continue now probably on a bi-monthly basis. We also have an upcoming public safety session on October 14th, so keep an eye out for that one. But then we really saw a need to support our businesses and to do advocacy through relaxed signage restrictions. You'll see all the orange signs up and down businesses on the Pike, cocktails to go, our form-based code position paper, and then also helping with year-round TOSAs, the temporary outdoor seating. Also, one quick announcement, which I'm so excited about, is we were blessed to have the Washington Forest Foundation provide us with a grant, which now allows us to be able to bring our intern on board on a part-time basis. And she's bilingual, she's great with the businesses, and she has brought something really terrific to CPRO and to the Pike. So thank you to Lucero, and thank you to the Washington Forest Foundation. And now, let's see if this works, because I'm displaying differently. Through COVID, we've seen almost a dozen new businesses open and or get ready to open. And one of those businesses, some of the sponsors and board members, we had the privilege to tour earlier this week. So I want to share this with you. Let's see if my technology works. Give me one moment, please.
We are here in the Columbia Pike Corridor to help and support our neighbors and our community to rebuild financial stability and to create prosperity and wealth. Through the programs that we offer here at La Casina VA, clients could access culinary training programs to obtain jobs in the food service industry.
So our culinary program started as a bilingual program in partnership with Northern Virginia Community College. Through these 5 years, we have been able to support more than 150 families that have obtained jobs and changed their situation. At the same time, our program offers food assistance to support people living in affordable housing buildings, in homeless shelters, food that is prepared by the students of our classes and then delivered through volunteers in the community.
In addition to that, our brand new small business incubator will support low-income entrepreneurs of color to start or to grow food-related businesses, accessing our brand new commercial infrastructure, industrial equipment, capacity building training, one-on-one assistance, access to micro-lending opportunities, and our support to distribute their products.
What people, our team has had in mind that has been the most powerful thing is that it is in our hands, in our control to make a difference. There is very little that we can control now in our lives these days, but this was one of those days.
In addition to all that, we also have a cafe, the Café by La Cocina Vieja, that awaits you all to come and try all the amazing food that our chefs are creating here.
Well, I think we need to do a round of applause for La Cocina and for Luis for putting that video together so quickly. And really, we are just tickled that the work that Patty and Nick are doing at La Cocina. Please, the cafe is open, so we definitely, along with all the other restaurants we'll talk about today, please go visit La Cocina. I think I fell in love with their butternut squash sandwich, so that might be also on my menu for later today or this weekend. And next up, I'm going to turn it over to John Murphy just to begin introducing some of our speakers today.
And remind me to unmute. A lot has been happening on the Pike and throughout Arlington and the region. Here to give us some additional insights to this and no fake news is County Board member and Pike resident Christian Dorsey. Christian is an economist by education and has served on the Arlington County Board since 2015. He has also represented Arlington in many regional boards and commissions as well. Christian?
Thank you so much, John, and it's good to be with you and the 75 other people who are attending today's virtual luncheon. I appreciate the introduction greatly, and I'd like to thank you and the CPRO board for your engaged leadership and vision. And an especial thank you and kudos to the CPRO staff, led by Kim, of course, for your resilience, your innovation, and your expert stewardship of the organization over this past year. Kim, it's been a little bit more than a year and a half since you've been on the job, and we're so pleased to see that the work that you've done in light of challenging and unexpected circumstances. I have the pleasure of meeting with Kim regularly, and as many of you know, I'm also a resident of Columbia Pike, so I have both a professional and indeed a personal connection to realizing our work and our plans for the corridor. You know, the Pike truly embodies so much of what makes Arlington appealing. The diversity of races and ethnicities and backgrounds provides us with the kind of inclusive neighborhoods that we desire, and also a strong sense of community. And it can't be ignored that we are close to the local activity centers in Ballston and the Roslyn-Ballston corridor, Pentagon and Crystal City, as well as the regional activity centers in Bailey's Crossroads, Skyline, and West Alexandria. Our strategic location is an asset that the county government, residents, and business interests, with CPRO kind of working at the fulcrum, are poised to leverage into the inclusive growth that we desire. I have the pleasure of also serving on the Council of Governments as its vice chair, And as we have come to appreciate this year more than ever, regionalism is key. It's key to our sustainability, but it's also key to our future success. And a critical part of regionalism is, of course, transportation and connectivity. And Arlington, despite the challenges that COVID has presented, both in terms of our near-term and immediate priorities, but also the uncertainty of our long-term fiscal outlook, I am pleased that the plans that we have had for transportation growth to cement and improve that connectivity, those plans continue. It's reflected, as Kim said, with both literal and figurative bumps in the road as we continue to build out the infrastructure to support our transit stations and paving the way, if you will, for the expansion of bus routes as part of our transit development plan. We are moving forward with making sure that we continue to have useful transit that can be flexible by providing for the long-term needs of our ART fleet to make those connections that are currently unavailable with the regional bus network. And as your panel will discuss, housing is also key. We are looking at the form-based code, which allows for the potential for redevelopment to occur without necessarily displacing people of moderate and lower incomes who already live here. But we also want to make sure that we're providing more than just the development opportunities from that. So we're embarking on a study to look at what is called missing middle housing, to figure out how our neighborhoods can continue to be sustainable and provide opportunities with varying needs and circumstances. So in short, Columbia Pike is an incredibly vibrant corridor by anybody's standards. And, in many ways, I was reflecting on the name of CPRO as the Columbia Pike Revitalization Organization. And for some people, they hear that word revitalization, and for them, it speaks to something that is lacking. And I want to make sure everybody knows that from my perspective and from the county's perspective, the Pike has a lot of assets to leverage. It's not a community that is lacking. While we are definitely poised to take advantage of all opportunities to fully realize and accelerate our plans, know that at the core, the kind of diversity and community that we already have in place is what will sustain this community into being the vibrant entity that we all desire in the future. So I would like to, again, thank CPRO for its work in keeping our community together. COVID and the pandemic's effects have shown great potential and have demonstrated elsewhere that communities can become frayed and ripped apart. But my neighborhood, the community that I live in, Columbia Pike, is pulling together. People are coming together to support people who are food insecure. We're coming together to make sure people get access to information and knowledge. They're supporting small businesses. And in each and every one of those areas and activities, CPRO has kind of pivoted and responded to see how it can meet those needs. So I thank you all for your interest in Columbia Pike, in Arlington, and in the future growth, inclusive growth that we know is going to come to our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you so much for your powerful and your kind words. We truly are pulling together as a community, and that's one of the reasons today we really wanted to focus on regionalism and connectivity. And before I introduce David Orr, who will be moderating our panel, you will see there is a note in the chat. CPRO is looking to potentially rename ourselves, and that process will probably happen over the next few months. So we will keep you posted. This is the first place you heard it. But this will go through a process with community input, and we will be in touch on that. So without further ado, I would like to now introduce David Orr. David Orr will be moderating our fabulous panel today. We are just fortunate to have all of these wonderful community leaders, business leaders who've decided to join us today. As I mentioned previously, David Orr is the owner of Centro, as well as quite a few other properties in the region and throughout the country. He has been on our board. He has been crucial in guiding us and helping us through these times, and before that, through development and other financial challenges that we had. So without further ado, David Orr, please take it away.
Well, thank you, Christian. That was wonderful. And I just want to thank you for your community service and how great your input has been through and your support as we went through the form-based code process on Columbia Pike. We have some great panelists today with Tracy Gabriel from the National Landing Bid, Stephanie Landrum from the Alexandria Economic Development Partnership, Bob Selden from Highland Square Holdings, and finally Brian Stout from Amazon. I just briefly want to tell you about our experience with the form-based code and with Columbia Pike and how that led to some success. And then I'm going to open it up to some questions to our panelists, if I may. All right, so we're having a little technical issues here on our side, but we'll get that fixed up. In the meantime, let me just explain briefly, talk to you about the form-based code and what our experience was. We developed a 366 unit project at the corner of Columbia Pike and South George Mason, and it's got a grocery anchored retail center underneath it. The form-based code is a process where the community went through and looked at with third-party planners over a series of 7 to 10 years, really tried to map out what Columbia Pike wanted to be. And in doing so, came out with a comprehensive plan for Columbia Pike and adopted a code called the form-based code, which incentivizes developers and expedites the development of the corridor. So we went through that process. It was an extremely positive process for us. It took us all of 9 months to get our project approved. And we got it built, and then we enjoyed an incredible level of success in our lease up. We probably broke all records for the lease up for any project in the metropolitan DC area. So in 11 months time, including 1 month, the month of April, where we had 0 leasing because of COVID scares, we were able to fill our building up completely, which is an incredible lease up. So we had, in some months, we had as many as 65 leases in some months. And this is, so why is this? Why is this the case? And so what has happened is that the community has recognized where we want these developments, but the form-based code has allowed us to deliver a property where the rents are $500 to $1,000 a month cheaper than similar quality apartments on the Roslyn-Ballston corridor. And that, I think, is perhaps the single biggest differentiator that has allowed us to flourish on Columbia Pike. And so with that, I'm going to now turn to some questions for our panelists. And the first one I'm going to talk to is Robert Selden, who owns Highland Square Holdings. And he's a new entrant into the Columbia Pike area with a live work platform. And I'd like to talk to him and ask him about why he's choosing Columbia Pike and why it's leading to a desire to invest in that community. Robert, maybe you can expand on that for us.
Sure. No, we appreciate a lot of the things that Mr. Dorsey was suggesting about the benefits of the location. I would actually say it a little bit differently, because when you define certain areas as activity nodes, you sort of define others down as not having activity, and we don't believe that that's true. We find Columbia Pike to be exceedingly vibrant and energetic and an exciting place that's full of diversity. It also happened to have what we determined to be highly underutilized and highly mispriced, high-quality building infrastructure. And unlike a lot of the other panelists, our property is actually located in Fairfax County. We are on the border of Arlington and Fairfax. And Fairfax County has been exceptionally forward-thinking in advancing new ways of thinking about how to facilitate people's choices for living and working. They've actually modified, with our help, their entire comprehensive plan to make our use, which is the live-work use, specifically permissible in all empty buildings. And so, because of that, sort of proximity to downtown, price competitiveness, high quality infrastructure, proximity to sort of lots of things that people want and need to do, it seemed like a perfect location for us. And I would sort of mirror David's perspective with regards to the desirability and price competitiveness, because we actually opened our doors in the middle of COVID in April, and we'll be full by the end of the year. So that's exciting. So far everything has worked out nicely, and specifically for our platform, which is really, frankly, one of the only ones that I know of, probably the only one, that specifically facilitates and privileges the ability of people to not only work from home, but to run a business from home, which is otherwise just not permitted in multifamily housing. The COVID scare has actually been really a force multiplier for the benefits of the flexibility that we can provide, because, you know, now instead of having to rent two places, business owners only have to really rent one. So when you think about reducing whole life costs for business owners, specifically for entrepreneurs, of which there are a tremendous number in the Columbia Pike and Bailey's Crossroads area, we really can meet a need that otherwise was not able to be met with other competing products.
Bob, could you briefly describe your live-work platform?
Sure. Unlike traditional buildings, which basically segregate human activity by use, you can live here, work there, shop somewhere else. Our buildings actually are subdivided into what I would describe as cool loft apartments, and then every unit is provided 3 certificates of occupancy. So every unit can be occupied at the user's choice as either an apartment, an office, or a combined live workspace. So we wind up with 300% utility in a 100% physical plant. And the building operates on what you would describe as a traditional multifamily operating system, 12-month leases, the tenants pay the utilities. So it looks, smells, feels like an apartment building. However, it just has greatly expanded functionality that none of our competitors can meet.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Let me next introduce Tracy Gabriel, who's in charge of the National Landing bid. And Tracy, perhaps you can talk a little bit about the urban centers and how, Bob was mentioning the collaboration between the various communities, what the synergies might be between those communities and the National Landing bid, and how things are going there.
That's great. Well, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here for CPRO. As it relates to the question, I think one of the things that National Landing, which comprises Pentagon City, Crystal City, and Potomac Yard, Arlington, has in common also with the Columbia Pike corridor is that we're both growth centers for the county, particularly obviously residential growth on Columbia Pike, but both commercial and residential growth at National Landing. I think the other thing we're seeing is that both are investing in place and the vibrancy of our streetscapes and our small businesses. And I think most fundamentally an opportunity around connecting our centers. And so I think the real opportunity that exists is strengthening, as we heard a little bit earlier from Christian Dorsey, is the notion of really investing in transportation and transit. I think, the exciting thing that we have now going on in National Landing is obviously the HQ2 headquarters for Amazon, but we are already, have a very strong tech market, nonprofit and association market, and we're a job center. And I think it's important as we're thinking about transportation and public infrastructure investments that we're thinking about not just connecting in terms of the old model of connecting to the core, to be the Washington, D.C. center, but seeing the synergies within Arlington and connecting to people to a diversity of housing options directly connected to a prominent job center. I think one of the things people often don't realize is that the National Landing area is in fact Virginia's largest walkable downtown, and that we have commercial at the scale of a downtown Austin or Oakland. and that we're on a path with Amazon's investments to become more like a downtown Miami and that scale. And when you think about it, you really need to be thinking about collectively the county and the region, and how I think the real reason that we're so attractive is because of our robust talent pool that we share, and our investments in innovation and the fundamentals around transportation. So I think that, as growth centers, as opportunities to strengthen the connection and really serve the South Arlington market is, I think, something exciting we share with these, as well as, I would say, the opportunity as two organizations representing these communities to continue to deepen and broaden our partnership. And we've been able to do that quite well, to pivot, I think, during COVID, to figure out, how we can work together to serve the needs of our community. And both Kim and I have been working on civic initiatives to, feed families and South Arlington. And I think that we start to see a more expansive role for the way we can serve the diverse needs of our community during this time.
Well, that's very well said, Tracy. Thank you for that. And Stephanie Landrum, I'd like to introduce you as the CEO of the Alexandria Economic Development Partnership, and just ask you about your side of that. You're on the other side of that in Alexandria, and how you feel about two communities working together in a greater regional alliance and transportation and all those types of things. Stephanie?
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for having me. True sign of regionalism is invitations and opportunities like this. So thanks for leading by example. Alexandria and Arlington have so much in common, and much more in common than we have not in common. And so it has made sense for us over recent years to find ways to collaborate in areas where we can sort of set aside competition to collaborate. And so we use the word co-opetition, making sure that we can find as many ways as possible to cooperate for the benefit of both of our communities. And there are lots of examples I think that we can use, but obviously the very highlight of our collaboration is the recruitment of Amazon and what's behind me, the Virginia Tech Innovation Campus, which we're working on in Potomac Yard. And I've been around and in this position for almost 15 years, and many people who've worked in economic development for Arlington County and through the various bids, we have a long relationship, and we have built a lot of trust and frankly, good energy wanting to work together on projects. And so when the opportunity to bid for Amazon second headquarters came to fruition, it was pretty easy for us to decide to bid as a unit. As Brian will talk to you, I mean, companies, whether they're as large as Amazon or much smaller, really don't look at a jurisdiction as an individual any longer. We all recognize, especially in Northern Virginia and the DC market, that it's really rare to find somebody who lives and works in the same jurisdiction. Most of us live, work, recreate, go to church, do all sorts of other things outside of our jurisdictional boundaries. And so an employer, when they're looking to establish a location, is really looking to be presented with regional information. So responding to Amazon's bid kind of forced our hand to tell the story jointly of Arlington and Alexandria, which is pretty easy to tell, but really pushed the bar forward and made us tell the Northern Virginia story. And clearly we were successful. We won that competition, and we have billions of dollars worth of investment as a result. So, kudos. But it ended up being that proof point of, that working together is better for all. We all knew it, but now we have this very, very tangible, undeniable output. So that has led the way for lots of other collaboration since then. The two organizations, Arlington and Alexandria, took our success and have now formed the Northern Virginia Economic Development Alliance, which is 10 jurisdictions in Northern Virginia now working together. And so it's been fantastic to be able to tell our regional story with regional data, regional examples. The example I'd like to use, and I think this will resonate with a lot of you, is imagine being able to tell, as Arlingtonians, imagine to tell a business that yes, they should locate here and that their employees could live on a horse farm. Like, it's all part of our region. Arlington doesn't, and Alexandria don't really have any horse farms, but Fauquier County does, and Loudoun County does. And so when you sort of pull up the level to be able to tell the Northern Virginia story and then highlight our very unique communities, we have a much better offering. And we had a pretty amazing offering to begin with. So I think regionalism has been something that we've all talked about for many years, but we're actually doing it now, and we're seeing the results of those efforts. So it's exciting to think about what could be ahead as we all kind of recover from COVID and think about what the new normal look like in terms of business activity and growth. Being able to do it together is extremely exciting.
Oh, that's a great answer, Stephanie. Thank you for that. Before I introduce Brian Stout from Amazon, what I thought would be helpful right now is we would open the floor up to all of our participants and just take a brief break to answer any chat questions. I see that there's been one put forth about Gilliam Place, and in particular La Cucina, when would they might have outdoor dining. Is there anybody on the platform here that could advise as to when La Cucina might have outdoor dining?
In, but I don't know what the time.
Okay, thank you. If there's any other questions from people who are participating today, feel free to send them in by chat, and we'll be happy to try to answer them for you. So now I'm going to introduce Brian Stout from Amazon. Brian, just to ask you quickly, first of all, I'd like to understand, or I think the panel and our participants would like to understand, first of all, why did Amazon choose our location? What were the compelling things about it and is it working for you? Can you articulate for us the things that are working for you and are making a difference for Amazon's growth? Brian?
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you to CPRO for having me. Just by a quick way of personal introduction, I'm fairly new to Amazon. Been here for just a little bit over a year, but not new to Arlington and the region. I was born in DC, and at 6, we hopped across the river and never left. So it's great to see so many familiar faces and look forward to continue working with you all. Short answer is ditto Stephanie, every single thing that she said. And to your question on if it's working or not, it absolutely is. Amazon could not be happier. And it seems like almost every week there is another either action by board member Dorsey and his colleagues, by just the community at large. There are continually these actions that are taking place that just further cement Amazon's belief that we made the right choice in selecting Arlington and this region as our second home. The main driver for the decision to locate here was the ability to attract talent. That is obviously something that the region has in spades, both in terms of just the overall number of talent in the technology space for Amazon, but also the diversity of that talent, which is critically important. Frankly, that's something that really differentiates this region from others across the country, and it's just critically important. I would say the other thing as well, and Stephanie touched on this a lot, was not only the regional cooperation that exists currently today, but really what was different about Virginia's application, and Northern Virginia's application in particular, was that decision to invest very heavily in the region, to invest in not only that kind of hard infrastructure, but the people as well. So the educational investments that have been committed as a part of this really just, frankly, made it a no-brainer. And so it's something that, now that we're here, looking forward to really playing a role in helping to continue to foster that sense of regionalism, that sense of cooperation, and the linkages between all of our various communities.
Brian, how is our community doing in addressing Amazon's housing needs?
So currently we have just over 1,500 employees. Obviously we will scale to 25,000 over the course of the next decade. And really, I think one of those, this gets back a little bit to those regional transportation investments. across those multimodal transportation investments. What we've seen so far, again, small sample size, but is exactly what we thought we would see, that our employees would choose to live throughout the region. This is not like some of our other sites in Seattle and elsewhere, where there's a very high concentration of our employees that are living, several blocks or in the same zip code as our physical footprint. We really do have, employees all across the region, in Maryland and DC, and then all throughout Northern Virginia to include Loudoun and Fauquier County. And so again, those really strengthening those connections, continuing to do so is going to be critically important as we continue to grow.
And Brian, do you see our communities working together on behalf of Amazon in a fairly seamless way? Is that working out well?
It has been. I think, we've been incredibly pleased with both on the public sector side, working with the various jurisdictions, working with county staff, working with elected officials, but also working just with community members, working with CPRO, with the National Landing Bid, with others. And I think what is most exciting is that there is there's a common purpose and a common understanding and a common commitment to each other that I think is just a wonderful starting point as we figure out, as we work together to kind of figure out how to execute on that vision.
And one last question, how are your job fairs going? Is Amazon able to fulfill its employment goals so far?
Yes, so far, absolutely. We had an in-person career fair last year that you all may have heard about. We just recently had a virtual one, and both have been incredible successes. Again, the main reason, the biggest driver as to why Amazon decided to locate in this region was access to talent. And it wasn't just being able to attract new talent to this region, it was the talent that existed here. The DC region, I didn't know this until the Amazon RFP went out, but our region has been one of the largest net exporters of tech talent over the last decade. So that talent is here, it's already baked in, and is something that we are really seeing play out in the success of our initial hiring efforts.
Oh, that's great, thank you. One of the chat questions that just came across is some people wanted to know where the La Cucina facility, the live-work facility that John Selden developed is located, and that's at the corner of Columbia Pike and Carolina Springs Road in the Mission Lofts project, just to share that answer. I think that's going to conclude, unless there's something else you wanted us to address, Kim, that'll include the panel side of this discussion. I just wanted to thank all the panelists for your very cogent answers, and thank the CPRO team for putting such a wonderful group together. Thank you.
And thank you, David. Thank you so much, Tracy and Stephanie and Rob and Brian. We really appreciate you joining us. We continue to work with you, and hopefully we'll make Northern Virginia a better place to work, live, and play. So thank you so much. Next up, because we have a full program today, we are going to go ahead and move into one of our favorite parts, one of the most exciting parts. Now, the panel was great, but our awards segment of the program. I'll have to tell you, we've never done this before as CPRO, as Columbia Pike, and we were truly inspired by folks just coming out of the, by people holding each other up, by really just pitching in, giving a hand so that everyone else could be helped, and especially through COVID. So today we're going to give out 5 awards. They are the Columbia Pike Spirit Award. And our first award goes to Flair Rides. Flair has really, Andres, Chris, Louise, they have just been fabulous. They were set up to help shuttle people from places that don't necessarily have public transit. And as you can imagine, when COVID came, they had to change their business model. And they stepped up to the plate, helping to deliver food for AFAC and for others. And they have really been key to our Buy a Nurse Lunch program. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to deliver the meals that we have delivered, over 2,000 meals to Virginia Hospital Center, Mary Marshall Assisted Living, and the Pediatric Center. So first of all, big round of applause for Flair Rides. And I don't know if any of the gentlemen are on and want to say a few words.
We are. Yeah, hey everyone, this is Chris. Kim, thank you so much for honoring us this way. And that goes for the whole CPRO team as well. You guys have been absolutely amazing to work with, and we're just honored, and we feel privileged to have been a part of this. I actually just completed another delivery right before hopping on here, and I wanted to extend on behalf of the VHC team all their thanks and appreciation for it. And I think all the restaurants that you guys have involved, us, and certainly the staff at VHC are all greatly appreciative of it. So thank you. And again, we've just been honored to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you to your team. You guys have been fabulous, and we continue to work together. And next up, we have Our Lady Queen of Peace as our next Columbia Pike Spirit Award. Our Lady Queen of Peace has been around for over 30 years serving the community. Before COVID, they would serve about 200 to 250 families every single week. Now we're looking at over 600 families. And we really want to give great thanks to Sally Diaz-Wells, who's their social justice and outreach minister, who's been able to also help provide business to our farmers. So not only does Our Lady Queen of Peace help the community, but they also help our farmers so that their produce does not go to waste in the fields. And I really like this quote from Father Tim Hickey: when things are darkest, we tend to pull together, and when we pull together, we find a sense of hope. And Our Lady Queen of Peace has truly done this. Thank you so much. Is there anyone on today? I know you guys are busy.
Yes, this is Michaela Sims Stewart, and I think Sally is on, but she was having technical difficulties, so she's only on by audio. But I am a volunteer at Queen of Peace, and have been working with the fabulous Amy at CPRO through this. And I have to tell you, though we are grateful for the recognition, we really need to be thanking you, because when this all first started, and I am a parishioner and a volunteer, and like everyone was watching with horror at what was happening. And when this all first started, it was really hard to figure out how best to ramp up, because everyone was scrambling, and we would talk to grocery stores and just so many different people trying to figure out how we could ramp up. And you guys were the ones that were there early, and you were so solid. And it was because we were able to get over 100 new volunteers to the effort. We knew that produce and farmers was going to be something we could tackle, but it only happened because of you guys. So it's really us that should be thanking you and your team for helping to make that happen. We've been able to give fresh produce to at least a portion of the 600 families we feed every week because of your help. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, this is wonderful. I'm getting goosebumps. Our next award goes to BM Smith and to David Peet. BM Smith has just been fabulous. They have been a partner for Columbia Pike, for the county, and for the region for decades. And they truly epitomize how to give back to the community and make it prosperous. They have met individually with their commercial and their residential tenants to figure out where their needs are, and to put payment plans in place and other plans in place to help their residents and their tenants be successful, which in the end then helps us as a community economically as well as spiritually. Thank you. So without further ado, congrats to David Peet, and I do see you. David Peet, would you like to make a few words?
Sure, we would like to thank so much everyone who lives along Columbia Pike and continues to patronize the businesses, the commercial interests along the Pike. And would like to thank actually all the BM Smith staff that have worked with those commercial tenants over the last 6 months. And thank you, CPRO, for being a guiding light.
Thank you, David. Greatly appreciate it. And next up, our next Columbia Pike Spirit Award goes to Arlington Presbyterian. They have definitely been a foundation, a building block for over 100 years in Arlington. And a few years back, they made a decision that they wanted to convert their property into affordable housing and to also a spiritual center. Not only did they do that for the community, but they have been such a significant blessing for our Feed Our Families program. If it wasn't for them, we would not be able to do that program right now and continue it. That produce goes to Gilliam Place, it goes to Harvey Hall, it goes to other affordable housing areas, and they do so much more. So Ashley, are you still on the line?
I am. I'm here, Kim. Thank you. So Arlington Presbyterian Church co-created Gilliam Place with Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, and we are excited now to be neighbors with La Cocina. Like many, in March and April, we were hearing kind of the horror stories of hunger and how hunger was filling up Gilliam Place. And so we worked with APA and CPRO we purchased enough produce to distribute through Gilliam Place for the entire summer. So on Sunday mornings from 9 to 11:30, we would distribute over 100 boxes of produce to Gilliam Place neighbors. And eventually we evolved into this little world in the garage where we ourselves were distributing household items like toilet paper and diapers and wipes and probably over about 1,500 masks, homemade masks to Gilliam Place residents. The NAACP has been there the past few weeks doing voter registration. Phoenix Bikes has been there to do bike repair. So we created this little world around food, produce, and food distribution. And that is our work at APC. And our work is to create an economic vision for South Arlington where relationships are the starting point versus profits for a few. So we really thank CPRO, we thank APA for bringing this to us, that we were able to live out our vision and that we are in community in a deeper and more profound way with our neighbors at Gilliam Place, which is why we are here on the entry level to maintain our commitment to the affordable housing crisis in the county and to be in community with our Gilliam Place neighbors. So this has been our expression of Black Lives Matter, and the work is to get the Black Lives Flourish. So thank you, CPRO.
Thank you so much, Ashley.
So well said.
Yeah. And our final award today goes to our Volunteer of the Year. And to be honest with you, we've always had some volunteers for CPRO, but this year we have just been blessed, especially with movie nights, over 25 volunteers coming out week after week to help us. And so it was very challenging to select one, but hopefully if my technology works, here is a little bit of footage for you. And Anna could not be here today with us because she is actually helping to keep schools clean and safe right now for teachers who are doing their online learning from the schools.
A volunteer who has been here every weekend the entire summer. We would like to present the Columbia Pike Spirit of the Community Volunteer Award to Anna Arias. Give me a round of applause for Anna. Anna, come up here, please. That award is over $200 worth of gift certificates to restaurants along the Pike. Give her a round of applause, everyone. Thank you. And thank you for coming with us all summer here at the drive-in. We appreciate it.
And so let's also all do a round of applause for Anna and for all of our awardees this year. Thank you so much. You have been just wonderful in really bringing this community together. Thank you. All right. And we also need to thank others as well. John Murphy, do you want to do the final thanks here?
Unmute. I do. I have a couple of notes here. First, I think we need to thank Kim Klingler and the CPRO staff for not only this great presentation this afternoon, but all the hard work that they've done during this very, very challenging times. You guys, we owe you a lot of respects and kudos for what you have done so far, and look forward to what you can do in the future. I also want to thank David Orr for running the panel and the panelists that joined us. It's a really great presentation and informative for all of us on the call. And my last thing I want to leave you with is I was inspired today by all this good stuff that's happening around us and on the Pike and the National Landing and David Orr's development and the B.M. Smith family and what they've contributed. So it's easy to get down in this time of uncertainty and of the pandemic and economic challenges. But the key question of leadership in this uncertain era, this is a quote I found, is what can we do to inspire optimism? And I think today's presentation certainly inspired a lot of optimism and gratefulness in me, and I hope that it helped some of you. So that would be all I have to say. Thank you all for joining us. Kim?
So we wouldn't be able to end this appropriately if we didn't make sure you knew all of our hashtags and our handles. We definitely want you to stay engaged. We want you to stay informed. We have some virtual events coming up. I also do want to note that next month is Latino Heritage Month, and normally we partner with Department of Parks and Recs to do some events. We are still working with them to see what we can do virtually, so stay tuned. And that means just another reason to follow us either via our newsletter or social media. And thank you so much for all that you do, because we could not do this work without you.